So guys, on the 10th of May, it was my 11th anniversary of moving to Dubai. And last year, on the occasion, I wrote a big blog post talking about my photography career and my life in Dubai in general. But today I want to make it a video celebrating my 11 years living in the land of sand and also telling you about how I actually became a professional photographer. I always loved photography and actually it started with my mom. My mom was always taking pictures of us with her Zenith camera. She had a dark room set up in the bathroom and we were not allowed to come in, but I remember that she was making prints and we still have all those prints in the albums. And later on also we moved on to Kodak point and shoots, and we still have even the film like stored in a big box somewhere in my parents' house. After the digital photography came into play, I think my parents bought a small point and shoot Sony camera, and then later on we acquired a Samsung camera, and then I had my personal Ixus, I think 75 or something like this, with 8 megapixels that I was enjoying taking pictures with. And at some point I went to live in South Africa and I had this camera with me, so I was just taking pictures of everything there, and I was always actually gravitating towards documenting my life with the camera, and especially being drawn to the beauty of the nature. And I always wanted to have a DSLR. Well, not always, like let's say since I moved to South Africa, I was thinking about the fact that it would be nice to have a DSLR to capture all this beauty properly, because I was living in a place which had a Table Mountain view. I even thought about having a project called 100 Days of Table Mountain, where I would go out and like shoot the Table Mountain from the same spot every day. That would have been cool, but I never did it. So moving on, I came back from South Africa to Moscow and started my first office job as a tender engineer, actually making tender proposals for electric power plants. Yeah, very interesting. And I had collected some money for my first 3 salaries to purchase a Canon 1100D with a kit lens. I remember it was autumn, so I was very excited because autumn is a beautiful time in Russia. It's the change of season, and the leaves become all colorful and the quality of the air is very different from summer. So I really enjoyed going out and practicing taking pictures of all the parks, and actually our office was next to quite a scenic location. So every day I would go out to this park and just play with aperture, play with different things to see how it works, and slowly started to teach myself photography. Of course, I could not have been satisfied with a kit lens for too long, so the next purchase was a 50mm Nifty 50 1.8, which makes wonderful noises when it zooms in and zooms out. But of course, having a 1.8 apertures compared to 3.5 can make a big difference, and it makes everything so amazing, and you're like, wow, now I'm a real photographer. The next one I bought 15 to 85, which was quite a decent lens, and I only sold it when I was already living in Dubai for like 5 years maybe. I came to Dubai first time in February 2012. I took my Canon 1100D with the 28mm lens that I had at that time just recently purchased. It was very soft lens on a wide open, but I didn't know that, so I shot a lot of like very dreamy looking images, but then I was not really happy about how they turned out when I reviewed them. But anyway, that was my first trip to Dubai documented with the Canon camera. Then eventually we worked out all the documents and everything, and I moved to Dubai in May 2012. After a month of looking for a job, I eventually ended up working for a fashion magazine called Savoir Flair as an office assistant and HR. and accountant and help to the auditors and actually doing anything that anybody would need from me. Including one day they asked me if I can go out and shoot some behind the scenes pictures of a fashion shoot. So I thought that perhaps, it is too much to ask, but nevertheless I took my 15mm lens, that same one, 1.8, and went to that shoot. From that shoot I remember there was a lot of strangely composed images. The white balance was not really there, but because it's a 50mm that you can shoot with 1.8, the photos of some accessories and certain things looked quite nice, so they liked it and they said, okay, you're gonna be the editorial photographer for the magazine now. So that's how it started, and I was like, okay, well, I will try. And I went out to shoot interiors after that. I shot food, I shot a lot of accessories, I shot street style. My next assignment was to go and shoot somebody's house. On paper it might sound like quite a simple job, but if you ever try to shoot interiors, you know it's not very simple. First of all, how do you balance the crazy bright outside light with the inside light? How do you fit everything in one frame if you don't have a proper lens for that? And also you need to make sure that everything is straight. So I remember that trying to edit those images, I had to look up the blending techniques, and it was really difficult to do, but I learned a lot. And from every assignment that I did for that magazine, I learned a lot. I met celebrities, I got to know a lot of socialites in Dubai because of that job. I remember that when I had to do street style photos at events, I just hated running after people and asking them if I can shoot their bags or shoes. It was very difficult for me to go out of my comfort zone and approach people for a photo. I had to literally push myself to do it, but eventually I learned how to do it, and I can do it so easily now. I can literally come up to anybody and ask them for a photo. It taught me a lot. I also learned how to see the scene, how to read the light, where to position people. But to be honest with you, every day working in that publication, I just thought to myself, I don't really like fashion. I don't care what Kardashians did yesterday. I kind of don't support the idea of promoting these influencers or Instagrammers, how they used to call themselves. I don't care about how many Dior bags they have in the apartment or what kind of expensive food they eat for dinner tonight, so I don't want to be a part of that. Whenever I had free time, I went out and took pictures of Dubai, landscapes, cityscapes, because Dubai, of course, is a very photogenic place. And I also happened to live in a tower with an amazing view, and one day I just came back from holidays and I took a picture of the skyline that was visible from my balcony, covered in clouds of fog. It was early morning and I just took a bunch of pictures to be put into a panorama later on, and I went to sleep. The next day I woke up and processed the picture and I posted it on Flickr, and it just became the most popular picture ever. There was 7,000 likes and 100 comments right away. So later on I submitted this photo for a competition for Instagram 5th anniversary, which was celebrated in Dubai in Burj Al Arab. And the prize for that competition was a trip to Iceland. And as you can guess, I won the competition and I had a free trip to Iceland. The only thing I had to do, I had to pay for the plane tickets, but I had a photography trip for 11 days in March 2016. I honestly couldn't really believe when the guy from Facebook called me and said, "Hi, this is so-and-so, I'm from marketing in Facebook," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, tell me more," because oftentimes we'll have all these phone calls here where they tell you that you want something or you have been selected, and then I'm like, oh wait, I did actually submit the picture, so perhaps he's right. And then I was in a meeting in the office, and we were usually standing in a circle, and I'm like, guys, I think I just won a trip to go to Iceland. And they're like, what, man? Like, we have to approve the holidays and everything. So when I won that trip, I was actually thinking like, okay, you know what, if I won a trip to go to Iceland because somebody selected my picture out of like 1,000 of other pictures, then I'm a real photographer, yeah? Like, I can do it. I'm not a bluff. So as I was a few days away from going to Iceland, I also had a photography workshop with Zach Arias, where he was teaching us how to use one light to illuminate the portraits. And I was going to my French class after that, which was in the same area. And as I'm walking to my French class with my photography bag, I hear that somebody's calling my name and just yelling my name in the street. And so I turn around and I'm like, I see the guy who is running this photography company in Dubai running after me and like yelling my name. I'm like, how do you know my name and why are you running after me? And he's like, yeah, I saw your pictures from the workshop, so I was wondering if you want to work for us as a studio photographer. So I told him, listen, I'm going to Iceland just after 2 days, so if we can discuss this on my return, then yeah, let's see how we can work it out. He's like, okay, just come by to the studio and we'll figure it out. So long story short, I mean, when I went to Iceland also, I told the people that like, hey, I won this trip and this is my picture, and they're like, wow, you're legit and like you should be proud of yourself. And I'm like, yeah, you think so? Because actually all this time working in this fashion magazine, nobody ever kind of said like, yeah, you're doing great, we love your pictures. It's just like, yeah, whatever. This is how I started to work as a studio photographer. And it was very exciting because I was thinking like, now I can literally call myself a photographer because, I'm doing this full time. Although when I was actually working my last few months in the office of the magazine, I was rarely having any time to do any administrative tasks because I was always out shooting. But still, like, I was kind of a bit uneasy about the idea of calling myself a photographer. Although, funny story, in 2012, when I just arrived here, we used to go to a lot of like house parties because back then, especially in summer, everything was closed and there was not much to do, so we'd always get invited to some random people's places. And in Dubai, there's a lot of the situations where there's huge apartments of like 7 rooms, and each one of the 7 rooms is occupied by a different person. So one is throwing a party, then somebody else invites you to a party, so you come in, and there's always a bunch of random people. And one time I come in, and in Dubai, like when you meet new people, and back then like I felt that everybody was new, they all ask, so where are you from, how long have you been here, and what do you do? And I got so tired of telling the same stories that my name is this and I come from there and I do this, that I decided just to tell them random things. So told one person that I was like training bears, the other person that I was like flamethrower, and then to the other person I told that I was a photographer, although I was not a photographer. And that person turned out to be like a dancer, so they got very excited, and I'm like, like apparently it's an exciting profession to do. But anyway, so I was working in the studio now, and there was a lot of things that I had to do there and learn, of course, about all the equipment, about how to deal with clients, how to do actual studio shoots and go on location with all your equipment, how to take care of the equipment, how to assemble all these different kinds of soft boxes, how to deal with shadows, if you want more shadows, less shadows, how to deal with reflections. And all of this, I mean, you can't learn without practice. And most of the things that I ever learned about photography was by actually doing the actual thing and seeing how it works. And honestly, I believe that anybody can learn anything if they just dedicate it and they practice. And so I always advise people to, instead of like watching YouTube videos about other people doing it, just go out and practice yourself. The more you practice, the more you practice, the better your photography will be. And of course, your first images are gonna be horrible, but well, maybe you are like super genius and they're not gonna be horrible. But I believe that oftentimes it's the case that they're gonna be horrible. So after 2 years of working in the studio, I had a fallout with my employer, who was not so happy about me traveling so much. And back then, I just couldn't stand the fact that I have to stay in Dubai for more than 3 months. I had to travel, I had to change the air. And I really wanted to go to Iceland with my husband once again, but he said, like, if you are going for holidays, then you're no longer working here. I'm like, well, you know what, if it's a problem, then I guess you know the answer. So since then I became a freelance photographer. Since I'm recording this video on a different camera today, it's a Canon R6 with a 50mm lens. This camera has a record limit of 30 minutes, so I had to stop and start it again, just to make sure that it doesn't cut in the middle. So yeah, in 2018 I had to go freelance, and of course it was terrifying because my boss, not only when he decided to fire me, he said that I'm never gonna find any clients to work with, nobody's happy with my work, and generally my attitude is not great. I thought, okay, you know what, like, let's give it a try. If not, I'm just gonna go back and work in the office. But somehow I managed. So eventually I got my freelance license, and now I'm official freelancer for quite a while. And I do have my clients. I work a lot in events, I work with art documentation a lot, and shoot some portraits on the side from time to time. So another thing that changed since then is that I no longer hate staying in Dubai for longer than 3 months. I actually like everything about this city and this country, because we do have interesting landscapes here. We have mountains, we have different kind of coasts, we have different terrains, and I like the dark shadows that the harsh sun creates. And when the humidity is high, I used to hate how it looked like everything is hazy, or with the dust everything is just covered in dust, and like there's no colors and there's no clouds in the skies. But now I just enjoy small things. I like textures, I like hunting different light situations, and I like the hustle in the old streets of Dubai. There's always interesting characters and friendly people to find to photograph. In the recent years, my friend Omar and I created a community of like-minded photographers as well, called Coffee and Cameras Collective. And we always have fun gathering together, talking about gear, just going out and shooting something in different locations. So in summer it's not so much outside, we try to go to like parks, indoor parks, or like indoor places, or maybe in the studio. What's nice about this collective is that there are people who have been doing photography for more than 20 years, and there are people who just started this year. Everybody exchanges knowledge, everybody shares their ideas, discuss what's their struggles, and we can all learn from each other. And it's always interesting to see how other people approach the scene. There might be something that you overlooked and they noticed. And some people shoot very contrasty black and white pictures, others like to shoot very zoomed in, others like to shoot very wide, and others just like to do portraits while everybody is taking pictures of the building. And even though we face a lot of challenges with photography and videography in Dubai, because you cannot take pictures of any places or any people without permit or their permission, we still manage to get around it and have fun. And in my 11 years here, only a few times I had a permit to shoot somewhere, and most of those times nobody even wanted to look at my permit. Yet, if security guard wants to yell at me, Whatever, smile at him, say sorry, I didn't know, walk away, go shoot somewhere else. They're not evil or anything, they're just doing their job. Just keep in mind that you have probably 10 minutes, so you have to be swift, and it also makes you sharp and it makes you prepared. So with this, I want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe as usual. If you have any questions, leave a comment. And take care of yourselves. I'll see you around.